The questions that I would ask are certainly, in a lot of ways, related to personality and drive and interest level. I think that, skill set comes through pretty clearly on a resume. I like to ask a lot of situational questions. If I gave you this project, how would you do it? I think...
Any market-specific questions?
Yeah, I would certainly want to understand that the person is actually passionate, right? I like to know what people read and how often they read, and if they read more than 200 characters on a Twitter feed at a time. I do think that having sort of broad perspective is pretty important in this role. It's because it's really about breadth and understanding of how a lot of different things fit together. But the most important thing, hopefully this has come through in the time that we've spent together, the most important thing to me is what really drives you. What is your passion? What is your interest level? Because to sustain the pace of commitment required to do this, I think you have to have a true interest and a true passion for this. And I don't know that anyone right out of school knows exactly what their passion is. It's just an interest and a drive, and a work ethic that's most important to success. In addition to curiosity, I would say communication skills, both written and verbal communication skills, are absolutely essential. If you just, you can be the most amazing, prolific researcher in the world, but if you can't articulate your conclusions in the written word and then articulate them in the verbal word as well, it's going to be really tough for you to be successful. The curiosity, it's just incredibly important to constantly search for the answers. I think you obviously have to have some basic finance skills and modeling capability. You don't have to be the world's greatest expert, but I do think you do want to have that baseline in order to be somewhat successul. The other thing that probably gets underappreciated and not mentioned is just sheer work ethic. And to me, my work ethic is driven by my curiosity. I'm going to produce work and I'm going to articulate my conclusions and I'm going to constantly push to do more and do better because of my curiosity. So that's just my perspective. That's how I come to the thought process. But you do have to have a pretty big commitment to the role. And that comes from, for me, from curiosity, but work ethic in general is going to be important. I think everyone is curious about something. Mm-hmm. And they should probably gear their life, their work, toward that curiosity. It's just really perhaps too simplistic of me, but you want to be driven to success. I think you have to be driven from something. And I'm driven from my need to know and understand financial markets. Mm-hmm. And I just got lucky to identify that relatively early in my career. I think if you're constantly driven to need to know more about something, you're most likely to be pretty successful in that something because you're going to constantly search and constantly seek out best possible answers.
What's the best way for a young person to figure out what's his or her passion?
Exposure. I think it's about exposure. Yeah. Exposure to people, exposure to process. The first 5 years of my experience were very much about just getting exposure. Mm-hmm. My first 2 years explicitly was a rotational training program to get exposure to how all aspects of that business worked. So it offered me just, tremendous eye-opening experiences because I could identify, this is what these people do. Do I like that? Not really. This is what these people do. Oh, I kind of enjoy that. That seems kind of interesting, right? Maybe I'll go there and try that next, right? And I think that if I were to say there's one thing I probably should have done a lot more when I was right out of school, it would be other forms of exposure outside of the business, which gave me inherently tremendous exposure to a lot of different areas. Exposure via networking and groups and just broaching conversations with experienced individuals. Like this activity that you're embarking upon is, to me, incredibly valuable because it's really difficult to get that exposure right out of school or even while you're in school.
Do you remember why have you decided to study economics in the first place?
I studied finance and marketing, actually. And why I decided, for some reason, I just knew in high school that I was very interested in marketing. I don't exactly know why. I didn't take any high school marketing courses or anything, but I just knew that that was something that was very interesting. I was very good at statistics. So I knew that that would be something of interest to me. And I've always had a little bit of a sales-ish component to my personality, though it developed more over time through necessity. And then I took my first finance course, and I thought it was magnificent stuff. So I added finance actually to originally what was going to be a marketing concentration in a business school. And what I do today, it sounds so cliche, but I really do combine those two majors, and I just got lucky. My interests have certainly broadened significantly beyond those two. I mean, I obviously was an economist for a period of time, so in that role I developed a tremendous respect and interest in economic history and disciplines of thought and how those disciplines have changed throughout time. And absolutely in that role started to cultivate my love of combining disciplines to come to what I feel are the best possible conclusions, as opposed to narrowly limiting myself to one train of thought. So my message to any students coming out of school is just to be curious and be open, and don't box yourself in. Find your passion. Look at the people around you. Try to have as many experiences as possible. Throw yourselves into projects, and just be open, because you never know what's around the corner. You never know what you're going to find. And I certainly found that coming out of school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. But nonetheless, by being open and curious and thinking about what drove me and just pursuing things that I